Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Wave. And now we're covering the game twos of the NBA conference semifinals. And game ones were super, super exciting. Some of the game twos definitely had kept up that level of excitement. We're going to get into some of the more interesting storylines going on around these series. And yeah, let's go ahead and jump in and get started. First one on the list was the Indiana Pacers Cleveland Cavaliers, and this game was like a thriller, man. This game was amazing to watch. Um, it, it was really just again a well balanced attack. Mathurin off the bench with 19, Obi Toppin with 7. The starters really came to play. Therese Halliburton had 19, but his 19 was it came really in the crunch, honestly, clutch time. Miles Turner was doing his thing. Neesmith was doing his thing. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they were up. They were up. They were leading. Winning the game. I think they were even up by double digits with like a minute left, maybe even less time than that. And Indiana just capitalized off all the mistakes. You could see the Indiana Pacers had 17 turnovers to Cleveland's 13, but some of Cleveland's turnovers came at like the worst time. Especially after they gave up their final timeout and they gave the ball up. It was just a mess. And for Therese Halliburton to really hit the game-winning dagger on them was just icing on top of the cake. Indiana leads the series 2-0. And now it puts a lot of things into perspective. I definitely think Cleveland could still come back and win the series overall. I think they're a good basketball team. They've been having some poor shooting from behind the line. They did hit 11 threes, but again, 28% from the field. 2 bad nights of shooting, similar to what we see going on with other teams around the league, and just the wind of the series and how tiring things are getting. In Cleveland, you see Donovan Mitchell. He took 30 shots out of 90. That's literally 1/3 of all the shots. So it was just a recipe for Cleveland to really blow the lead. Nobody really had a rhythm besides Donovan Mitchell. Jared Allen had some touches. He had 22, and Strus had 23 as well. Merrill had 14 off the bench, but other than those guys, everybody else kind of was a little flat coming out. They had a lot of players not play. Evan Mobley was sitting out. Hunter was sitting out. Garland, again, still with that toe, still bothering him. So it was, even with the limited lineup and all that, it still was a little bit of a winnable game. It was Cleveland definitely had the series, not even the series, but this game in their hands, and they completely melted down in the final 90 seconds. And yeah, Therese Halliburton with the game-winning shot. I think Indiana's a really underrated team in the Eastern Conference. I think they have a good built roster. I don't want to really flop my decision. I still want to stick with Cleveland in 7. I think they could really pull it out, especially with the poor three-point shooting and some of their players not playing because of some injuries bothering them and stuff like that. So I think they have the firepower to really get it going, but they need to get it going. They've been having some good scoring. They've scored triple digits every game they've played, but they're not closing out the games, and they need to. This is really a coaching thing, and Indiana's up 2-0. It's definitely possible for them to go on to the Eastern Conference Finals. My pick is still Cleveland in 7, though. I think they can pull it off, but Indiana, they're in the driver's seat, and it's going to be interesting to see what they decide the game plan as they take their first game at home. So let's see if they get to defend home court and finish the series off and head off into the Eastern Conference Finals. So let's go ahead and jump off into the next game on the slate. All right, next on the slate was the New York Knicks versus the Boston Celtics, and again, another thriller for the game 2. New York again sneaking a victory out of Boston. Again, this game was a carbon copy of the game 1. Celtics build a lead. They fold in the final stretch. Knicks come back, sweep the game from them. And again, a formula that I keep seeing, the common theme I would say I see in both the games is settling for that 3-point shot, bro. The Knicks didn't shoot the 3 ball that well either. They shot 9 for 31, but the Celtics 10 for 40, like 25% from the field. It's just not efficient, settling for threes. Like Derek White with 3 for 11, but yet he made he tied for the most on the team. Pritchard with 3 off the bench, but like it's just not a recipe to win. You had Al Horford taking 5 threes, Jaylen Brown with 7. Like it just wasn't ideal. And they had Kristaps Porzingis coming off the bench, and going into this series, he was really supposed to be the X factor, and he is going to be the X factor if this Celtics team wants to win this series at all. They can definitely still come back, but I'm kind of starting to sway my view on the Boston Celtics. Not that they're not good, I just think that they are beatable, and I think what I had mentioned about this Knicks comparing them to the Magic is kind of showing. Like, yeah, the Knicks aren't as defensively rated as the Magic, but they're not as bad, and they're way better on offense than they are. So it's just a formula that, like Orlando kind of showed that the Celtics in crunch time and in close games, they're not poised. That's really what it is. And Jalen Brunson, he lives for the crunch time moment, the game winning shot. Like he played great. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these stats. Jason Tatum, I saw most of his field goals were at the basket. He really couldn't get anything with his jump shot. Drew Holiday had a good game with 10, especially coming back from not playing an entire series. Derek White with 20, definitely consistent, but, just a little inefficient on the floor. Jaylen Brown, same story. Just, definitely put up good points, but just inefficient baskets. And again, just a lot of threes. Just not a good night from some of their stars. 5 for 19 is definitely something to call out. 8 for 23 is also that's just insane. Shooting over 40 shots and only making about 13 of them. So I definitely don't see them playing this badly continuing. I think they're in a slump. And they scored 105 with a 91 defensive game. Again, Mikal Bridges with the game-winning, forcing the game-winning turnover. Karl Anthony played a decent game, not even decent, played a great game, 21 with 17. Brunson, again, he had 17, but some clutch baskets when they needed it. Hart played amazing, 23, 6 rebounds, but it felt like he had 100 just because of how, the hustle he was playing out there. And Mikal Bridges had 14, but those 14 literally came in the fourth quarter when they mattered the most. He literally sparked that run with a key shot, a key fadeaway, and he just kept the motor going. And once he got that motor going, he never stopped. Mikal Bridges, 8 rebounds, 6 points. He was definitely great out there. And yeah, McBride, he was definitely doing his thing. So the Knicks, they're in the driver's seat as well in their series. They head back to the Garden. Let's see how they decide to respond. And they, as in Boston. And again, I'm starting to sway my view of how I'm seeing the series. The Knicks, they seem to have the ability to get to crunch time. And if the Knicks can take one game in the Garden, I think the series is under wraps. I think the Knicks can close it out. And I do want to go on record saying that, in my opinion, if the Knicks can take the Celtics and beat them, I think the Knicks have the potential to make a finals run. They definitely, show that they have a little bit more experience and, just a little bit hungrier than these other teams like Boston. And we'll see how Cleveland is going to react to Indiana. But the Eastern Conference is open for the taking, and I think the Knicks can really jump into the finals and go for a run. Just the way how everything is lining up. But yeah, great series. Let's see how Boston responds. Let's see if New York can hold down the advantage and just take one, or even if they can sweep the Celtics, that would send a statement throughout the whole NBA. But I doubt the Celtics will come out like that with their tail between their legs and shooting 25% from the 3-point line. So I think, again, my view on the series is starting to sway, just because these two games are kind of pivotal. You can't really drop games like that in the NBA. These are professionals, so the Knicks are definitely showing that they're playing some of their best basketball, and they can definitely go on a finals run if they can continue to win these close games. But always remember that you always are gonna, when you play with the margin so tight, it's always gonna play in your favor. So let's see how they handle coming back to New York and playing Game 3. All right. Next on the slate was Denver versus Oklahoma City, and this was just a beat down from the very get go of the game. There was a few, but not many bright spots. Russell Westbrook with 19 off the bench, but inefficient in the lineups that he was in. And it's just not really much going on here. Jamal Murray, 14, 4 for 9. Definitely not the type of stats you need in a semifinals against the number 1 seed. Jokic, 17 with 6 turnovers. Just not good basketball being played out here. Let's see who else we had out there. We had Christian Brown. He was pretty bad out there. I think he had the worst plus minus. He wasn't, he was getting some good looks at 3, but he wasn't knocking it down. It was literally just a thunder show all night. They have 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players in double figures. Chet Holmgren, 15, 11, nice calm double, 3 for 8 on the field, going to the free throw line, being aggressive. Jalen Williams, he had, 17, 7 assists, only 1 turnover, no fouls. Great game out there. Hartenstein, 14, 8 and 5. 1 steal, 1 block, no turnovers. Great match out there. Alexander, this was just, the whole team was on fire. He went 11-11 from the free throw line. Everybody, they only missed 3 free throws, and they went to the free throw line 36 times. 90% from the free throw line, 44% from 3, with good volume. They were literally on fire. The percentages tell everything else itself. 56, they hit over half of their shots. They were on fire. So, and the scoreboard definitely tells that in a nutshell. Oklahoma City, they were going to come back to that, collapse in game 1. They definitely had to show that, they're the number 1 seed for a reason. It was just, let's see how Denver decides to defend their home turf. This is going to be a great series. These teams, 2 heavyweights, it's going to be a great match. And Oklahoma City still sits as my pick to come out of this series, just because Denver, they have the talent, they just don't have the depth, and that's where Oklahoma City could lean on to kind of really push on into the rest of the playoff run. So let's go ahead and see what the game plan is. And this was a textbook. Looked like it just looked like a outclassed game. But we'll go ahead and see what the rest of the series has in store. But let's go ahead and get on to the next game. And the final game for the game 2s was Golden State Warriors versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. And again, this was another game without Steph Curry. You can see they played the entire lineup. They played everybody literally. Went out there. Jonathan Kuminga with 26 minutes off the bench. Jackson Davis with 19. Moses Moody 16. Spencer with 14. You see the minutes were definitely going around. And it was clear from the go that with Steph not playing, and with an unclear timeline of when he would return, it was going to be a struggle for them to have offense. That was their problem pre-Jimmy Butler trade, and it just shows how pivotal Steph Curry was for that run to make sense. They complemented each other so well, and it's now Jimmy Butler's. It looks like he's playing back in Miami with a good team, but just not enough talent to take him over the top in the playoff run. So this series really depends on a few things. The Timberwolves had to scare themselves with Anthony Edwards, that ankle. A key note is that when I went to see Anthony Edwards live, he had an ankle injury scare where he walked back to the locker room. We didn't hear back from him until halftime, and then he came back and he dropped like 25. He did the same thing with the Lakers game. He had an ankle injury, and he came back and just continued playing. And again, same thing with this game. He had an ankle scare. He went back there and he played through it. So something to pay attention to. But we're happy to see that he came back and he's healthy and he's able to play. The Timberwolves, they played a good match, especially Julius Randle with 24 and 11. He had 7 rebounds and 3 away from a triple-double. Great match for him out there. He was facilitating, doing his thing. McDaniels with 16. He had a great game as well. Edwards, he was doing his thing as always with 20 points. 6 for 13, not bad for him at all. Even Mike Conley was getting in on some of the action. He hit a few threes. And again, he was just doing his thing out there. Naz Reid off the bench as always. Rudy Gobert, not too much of an offensive threat, but again, always a presence on defense. No blocks though, but there's always a rim protector and someone to always pay attention to. He definitely contributed to them shooting 44% from the field. I could tell you that for a fact. And Alexander Walker with 20 off the bench as well. DiVincenzo, solid guy, always out there shooting threes, playing some defense. And 50% from the field, it's just a recipe for success, especially when the Golden State Warriors are shooting the ball so poorly. 28% from the 3-point line. So, again, the series really depends on if the Golden State Warriors without Steph Curry can hold off the Timberwolves, or even if they can find their rhythm or find some kind of answer offensively. If somebody could step up and just take the reins, or just consistently give them 20 to 25, like a Jordan Poole they had previously. You know what I mean? So, they definitely, scoring is a problem, especially when Steph's not playing. So that's something to pay attention to. He is very pivotal. He's actually very key for the run. So the Golden State Warriors, they obviously don't want to rush him back. We saw what happened the last time they had a superstar and they rushed him back from injury during a finals run. They don't want to have a repeat of that. It would just leave a bad taste in the organization's mouth, and it would kind of ruin the legacy of that whole entire run that they had, and it would defeat the point of all of it. So, Steph Curry, wish him a speedy recovery. Hamstring injuries are really super serious. You need your legs to play basketball. So, and you've seen it, his game immediately altered. His running was a little bit off. We'll see how they decide to respond in terms of Golden State. They're playing at home. Role players and players off the bench, they definitely play better when they're in their home environment. So let's see if they have a better game in their building, and let's see if they can get one game. And they should definitely be in the mindset of taking it one game at a time until Steph's back. So, and it gives them some time to rest in the postseason. So if they do continue their series or do continue their playoff run, he'll be relatively fresh compared to some of these other guys. So let's go ahead and see how they do. I still have Golden State in 7. And, the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to be a tough match. And they were going to be a tough match either way. And even without Curry, it's going to be a little bit even more difficult for them. So let's see how they decide to respond. And Timberwolves, again, they're in the driver's seat, you can say. But I can say that it's definitely not a guaranteed win. It's going to be like that Denver OKC series. Is really going to be down to the stars and some key play, and we'll see what the NBA or these players decide to show up. So we'll see how things turn out in Game 3. I want to thank you guys so much for joining in on the wave. We're definitely having a great time covering this postseason run, and I'm really happy and glad to be just a part of it and just enjoying sitting down having a conversation about basketball. So definitely join in. Leave your comments. I definitely want to read takes. I want to definitely hear your opinion, so just feel free to leave them. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out. Ciao. I'll see you later.